Josh Scogan. I'm with Accelergen Energy, who's proposing the project. I'm one of the founders of the company. And I asked that if you would allow me to go through the presentation, and then we can do a Q&A session at the end that allow us to be a little bit more efficient and get through the presentation so we can kind of move through it. Okay, so I wanted to first start, can everybody hear me okay in the back? My voice carrying? Okay, good. I want to start with just a quick overview of who is Accelergen Energy. Accelergen Energy is a company founded by a team of veterans that have been doing this for 20 plus years individually. We were formed in 2023 with our capital source. Our business model is to develop, build, and operate projects like this one, as well as solar projects throughout the central and western United States. We are an independent power producer. Here in our country, anybody can put power onto the grid and sell it on the wholesale market. One of the great things about it. And so what we do is sell power to utilities and other industrial customers at levelized rates and make our return for our investors, and then the utility has a guaranteed rate as a hedge against volatile energy prices associated with other sources of fuel. I also wanted to just, battery energy storage, it's relatively new in this part of the country. A lot of installations have been going out in the Southwest, primarily Texas, Arizona, Nevada, California, up in New York, but they're moving, and in Virginia, but they're moving into this part of the country due to the tremendous amount of energy growth that we're seeing. So these projects take energy from the grid when it's at a low cost during low demand hours, store that energy, and discharge it during hours when it's needed most at an affordable price. That's the intent. These systems are really optimizing the use of the energy we're already generating. In this part of the country, there's a tremendous amount of wind energy. Over 70% of the nameplate capacity of your energy sources come from wind in this part of the country. It's staggering. And all that wind, a lot of it is generated at night, and it's not being used. These projects allow us to capture that energy at a low cost and deliver it later in the evenings and afternoons when it's needed most at an affordable price. These projects help avoid costly transmission upgrades when sited in the right locations. They help avoid all the congestion. Think of transmission lines like roadways. During peak demand, you have a lot of traffic jams on those transmission lines. And these projects, when they're sited near the load, are able to deliver right at that location without having to rely on the transmission lines during peak hours. Why do we need energy storage? I've gone a little bit about this, but what we're experiencing for the first time really since post-War II is demand growth. Local energy providers are projecting to double their energy load over the next 5 years. It's unbelievable. We've never seen anything like this in my lifetime, and really, like I said, since post-World War II. But at the same time, we have a lot of old infrastructure. We have old transmission lines. We have old oil and gas plants that are very inefficient and costly to run. Those are being shut down. So in one direction, we have more demand for power. In the other, we're trying to take older power plants offline. So there's this increasing gap of a need. And these projects, like I said, are part of a solution. They're not the only solution, but they're part of a solution to capture the energy we're already generating and deliver it later in the day. Why this location? We start siting our projects by looking at all the transmission models that are developed by your local energy providers and evaluate where on their system are they experiencing the highest price variances or the highest price differentials. Meaning where, that's a sign of where there's the most traffic on those lines and very hard to get power into. This location is one of the most volatile price locations in all of the 12-state area. Kansas City has a very congested transmission system. I was at your local energy provider's office today. We can easily agree on that fact. This area, while having a need for affordable power when it's needed most, is also infrastructure ready. There's a substation already at this location. We also saw that there was already cleared land adjacent to that substation, so no need to deforest a lot of area. There was also interstate highway providing access near the site, so easy to get to. And then we looked at the priorities of the local government. Your local government recently published Plan KCK, which had a comprehensive plan on what their priorities are moving forward. And this project had a lot of alignment with those values and strategies laid out in Plan KCK. This is a snapshot of the proposed site plan. What you're seeing on the screen in green is 37 acres of property that we're buying from a landowner who currently owns about 60 acres. We've split this 37 acres off from that. So this project participant is just a tenant farmer, really, but they'll continue to own about 23 acres to the east of the site that will not be developed. The layout on the screen is for a 300 megawatt project. Our first phase will be 200 megawatts. So what you're seeing on the screen is larger than what we're planning to build over the next few years. This project is not planned to be constructed for a few years. Probably 2029 is when it would go operational. 2028 or 2029. So we're still a ways off in the planning phase here. But we developed this layout as part of our permit application to the county. The county has a very good process, a very rigorous process to help us develop a site layout that complies with all their requirements. The site layout, the fence of the layout will be more than 1,000 feet from any existing neighboring residence, creating a large buffer area around. We also saw a lot of natural vegetative screening that's existing. And we said, well, what is this project going to look like from nearby roads? So we had a consultant who does 3D modeling for all sorts of industries in the United States, develop 3D models for us based upon on-site topography and a layout of the project. And here's what we're seeing. The only location from roadways that we potentially could see the site is from the entrance along Metropolitan Avenue. So what you're seeing on the left side of the screen is an existing condition from the entrance looking to the northwest. What you're seeing on the right is what the project will look like when it's done. So as you can see from Metropolitan Avenue, the project will not be visible. If it was, what you would see is probably some landscaping with an aesthetic wall. There's going to be likely an aesthetic wall to abate some sound. We don't want to increase sound levels on any nearby residences, and we'll work on a baseline to establish that, and I'll go into that a little bit further on here in the presentation. A lot of benefits that this project brings in terms of boosting local workforce, just locally, not even statewide, but just locally. We're estimating 65 local construction jobs. We're talking with local contractors and the IBEW Local 124. We want to hire the most skilled local labor that has a high safety record as possible. That's paramount to us. Increasing tax revenue. Over the life of the project for 20 years, this project would generate about $19 million in tax revenue. We are modeling it to reduce annual production costs, $9 million annually. So taking that cheap power at night and shifting it to later in the day is estimated to save about $9 million annually, just for this one project. It'll deliver clean energy. These projects do not emit greenhouse gases. Community-based partnerships, we're looking at doing scholarships with the local community college, providing at least one full ride scholarship annually to an applicant, and doing other programs for workforce development. We're also doing currently community-based partnerships. We're doing a $5,000 quarterly donation or more to local community-based partnerships like energy relief and human services. For design best practices, I went into a little bit about noise. We want to establish what the baseline is. What is your current noise level at nearby residences? And our commitment is to not increase that with this project. And that can be done with acoustics modeling. Acoustics modeling is a well-known technique. There's software based upon the specifications of the equipment in order to do that, and that's our commitment. Lighting is minimal. It really isn't needed at the substation. At the site, there will be minimal lighting that will be turned on with a switch as necessary, but this system is largely unmanned, so that light will likely very little ever be on, and if it is on, it will be shielded and faced downward to avoid any light pollution. We've done all sorts of environmental studies, species, habitat, waterways, hazardous materials, you name it. We've done all the studies. We've submitted those studies to the local applicable agencies, including U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Kansas Department of Fish and Game, and they've all provided written correspondence back that this project does not have any potential negative impacts to species, habitat, or waterways. Off-site drainage, all the water on-site will be captured prior to being released off-site, so there will be no increase in off-site water flows. Groundwater, we estimate with our early geotechnical studies, not the aquifer, but just to hit groundwater, it's about 30 feet plus down at this site. And with the infiltration rates of this soil type, it can take about 3.5 years for a water droplet to get down that far. Public services, the project is an unmanned project. It does not require sewer, does not require a continuous amount of water flow. It will not increase traffic during operations. This project will actually have probably less traffic than an average residential home throughout its life. It will not generate solid waste through its operations. So low demand on public services. Wanted to go a little bit into project safety. I do have a consultant here, an energy expert from Jensen Hughes. They're the largest fire protection engineering company globally. And I've brought Mike Stanley here, who's off to my right, and he'll come in here in just a moment, but I'll kick this off. And I want to talk about safety because this, there's a lot of misinformation out there about safety with battery energy storage systems. Excuse me 1 second. Battery energy storage systems have made a lot of improvements over the years. Just like any first version of a technology, you learn a lot. And with this technology, because it's connected to the grid, you had to learn a lot fast. In the beginning, the industry basically was taking cars from batteries from electric vehicles, putting them in containers, assembling them on site, and putting energy onto the grid. Well, that didn't work. As you can see with the red bars, on the bottom here we have a time frame from 2016 to basically today. So the last 10 years, you've seen improvement here. The red bar is the number of incidents reported globally on utility scale energy systems. The blue bar is the amount of systems installed. So you see in the beginning, there was a very high incident rate per installation. Since that time, the evolution of codes, standards, installation techniques, technology, operations and battery management systems, that has all changed the game. As you can see off to the right here, the number of installations has grown exponentially, and the number of reported incidents has become to the point where it is extremely rare for a safety incident to occur with one of these units. One of the main reasons for that is that not all lithium-ion batteries are created equal. They're not the same. In BESS systems, they're not the same. Lithium-ion describes a group of battery types. There are many variants of lithium-ion within that group. Two have really proven themselves for certain applications. One is an application that has done very well for the electric vehicle industry. However, it contains heavy metals like nickel, cobalt, and manganese. It is good for the use in an electric vehicle because it has high density, so a lot of energy can be put in a small space. But it's very heavy. It has a low tolerance for temperature before it goes into what we call thermal runaway. And when it goes into thermal runaway, it has a self-propagation because the components within the battery start to break down under heat and release oxygen, creating the fire triangle. That is what creates the self-propagating thermal runaway in that technology. That's what the energy storage industry was using early on, and why we were seeing those really high incident rates per installation. Because it wasn't the right technology for their use. We were putting a round peg in a square hole. Engineers have come a long way. They've developed a brand new, well, not brand new, but they've helped commercialize and improve a technology called lithium iron phosphate, LFP. That is the technology that this project will use. This project will not use technologies with heavy metals like nickel, cobalt, or manganese. That does a lot of wonderful things. First and foremost, what it does is it prevents the decomposition of the battery under extreme heat. So you're not introducing oxygen or the fire triangle into a thermal runaway event. You're also in the very rare, extremely rare event of a fire with a lithium iron phosphate battery in today's systems. You don't have those heavy metals, which those heavy metals in those older technologies is what was creating very high heat conditions, causing those fires to last for a long time. Those are the improvements that this industry has made, and I'm going to go at the end and show you some of the commitments we want to make with projects like this, and commitments that we want to have the project make to you. And not just by what I say, but by what's on paper. And we can do that through the conditional use permit that we're applying for. A conditional use permit, in our view, is a contract to the community. That conditional use permit can put restrictions and requirements on us that we have to meet or comply with before we can get a building permit. And those are things that we want to do. The other main thing about, two main things that have changed. A lot of incidents that have happened within the first year or two of installation. And that's because the quality of the installation. And the industry has addressed that in two ways. One, these systems are integrated in controlled environments in factories now. You have system integrators that not just make the battery, or not just make the racks, or not just make the enclosure, but create an engineered solution that is completely manufactured within their walls, tested before it is shipped out. So it is a plug and play in the field. Number two, the labor industry has come a long way understanding what works and what doesn't. And we're committed to using the highest quality, most skilled, highest safety record labor force in Kansas. We believe that's IBEW Local 124 and its general contract partners. We're committed to doing that. The other is the battery management. Why do we feel comfortable plugging our phone, plugging in our laptop, plugging in our power tools, walking away and forgetting about it without fear of them overheating or overcharging? Because battery management has come a long way. 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. We had cell phones that were going into thermal runaway because they were under battery monitoring, not battery management. They're two very different things. Battery management systems are what are creating very safe systems today. They prevent that overcharging, that overheating condition from occurring. There's other systems here. I want to give Mike a chance to maybe add anything. Mike Stanley with Jensen Hughes here off to my right, to the left. If you want to add anything to what I'm saying here, Mike, or introduce yourself.
I just want to introduce myself and touch on a couple of things. So like Josh just said, my name is Mike Stanley, and I'm a Senior Fire and Emergency Service Consultant for Jensen Hughes. As he mentioned, Jensen Hughes is the largest fire protection engineering company in the world. So we were engaged to work with your local fire department and also to address some of these safety factors and help plan for these safety factors that come along with BESS installations. And some of them are required by fire code, some of them are required by statutes, some of it, but the majority of it is we want to protect the community and protect the investment. So I spent 30 plus years working in communities evaluating risk. I'm retired, working for the fire department, I retired as a fire chief before I came to work for Jensen Hughes. And now I get the opportunity to come talk to fine folks like you about different projects around the country and around the world. And so I do a lot of work in the BESS space, as does Jensen Hughes. You know, that our folks are on all the committees, they're the ones driving the industry, doing a lot of that engineering work. So I'll be around, you know, throughout the evening, you know, be able to answer some of your questions. I'll be around, you know, you think of something later, grab me off to the side and we can talk. But sure you have lots of questions. You know, we'll go back to that slide and you see the graphic over here about the decrease in incidents. Now, when we look at that, you think, wow, that's only been less than 10 years. That's kind of a short span, right? But the reality of the way technology evolves in our modern world is on the left, that's the Flintstones. On the right, that's the Jetsons. You know, not to date myself with that analogy. But I mean, that's what we're talking about, how this technology has emerged. That, you know, when you try to conceptualize that, think about that we had the first human flight where they survived the landing, right, at Kitty Hawk with the Wright brothers, to putting a man on the moon in less than 70 years. Yeah, and we have done nothing but pick up the pace. So the technologies evolved. You know, Josh mentioned the changes in code and regulation. You know, decades and decades ago, we used to have lots of tragic fires in schools. Well, codes were developed, standards were developed, we learned from those incidents, and now you don't see that in the news anymore. And that's what's happening in this industry as well. So the National Fire Protection Association, which develops all the different fire protection standards throughout the United States and gets referenced globally, just released their standard 855 on lithium-ion batteries and battery energy supplies, battery energy storage systems, excuse me. This is highly regulated, highly regulated. But there are lots of standards involved, and there is lots of engineering systems that are developed to prevent those bad things from happening. The owner doesn't want it to burn up, the community doesn't want it to burn up, the manufacturer doesn't want it to burn up, the fire department doesn't want it to burn up. So we've over-engineered some of these things, and we've gotten, the technology, much like in your cell phone, has gotten much smarter. So lots of standards and stuff to minimize that. So we work with the local fire departments in the area fire departments that might respond in developing an emergency response plan. That way they already have a plan for how to respond, what to do when they get it. Very unlikely event. But coming from the fire service, my job was always to hope for the best and plan for the worst. And so we'll develop those plans. We'll do a thing called a hazard mitigation analysis. We'll do some plume modeling. I can get into more explanation about that, as we go along. I won't bore you to tears with all that information right now. But we look at all those factors of how does this impact your community in regards to safety, and how does it impact the fire department? So that's the perspective we come from. You want this one? Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I'll just kind of open it up for questions here as I wrap up just a couple more slides. Thank you, Mike, and Mike's going to be a resource for questions after here. I just want to get through the deck. This is just a list in the packet that if you didn't get one, they're at the entrance there. Please grab one. It just describes all the layered protection systems and the technology that we're committed to using. Like I said, this project isn't going to go into construction for another few years. So technology is going to continue to evolve and only get better. This project, we were talking to your deputy marshal today, and he was saying he would like to see this project be subject to new codes as they're adopted ongoing. So I'm not stuck in 2026 or 2027 code forever, but we'll be required to continuously update the project to make sure it applies to those applicable codes. And I think that's a fair request. Decommissioning. We don't want to leave you with a bond. That's not our objective. To guarantee that, we are going to be issuing a bond to the benefit of the county that it can draw on in the event, unlikely, that we would just disappear and walk away from a $200 million investment. Unlikely. But if for some reason it happened, we went bankrupt, I fell off the earth, I don't know. You, as a community, would have the ability to pull that bond and have the money available to hire a contractor locally to do the work. And the way that we're guaranteeing the right amount is in place is we're going to hire a third-party professional engineer, which we've already done to prepare one as a draft, an estimate of the cost to decommission and properly handle, dispose, and recycle and restore the site to its existing condition when done, and returned to the ag zoning it is. That's the nature of the conditional use permit. So this is not a permanent forever thing. This will be fully restored and you'll have that guarantee. Final good neighbor commitments. This is just a few that I came up with as I was thinking about the commitments we want to make to you and things that we would be happy to see in a conditional use permit list is no toxic metals in our technology. That's not the way we're going, so happy to make that commitment. Highest quality installations, making commitments like working with your local laborers, your IBEW 124, your local contractors to ensure we are utilizing the highest skilled workforce available. Improving local services. We've talked with your road department, very nice gentlemen. Both Ricky and Chris were great. They agreed that the width and the shape of 88th and Metropolitan is not in the state it needs to be, but we'll get it there at our expense. We'll improve that to a rural cross-section with nice ditches, improve those culverts, and solve the problems that those roads are currently having. We also understand that some of you folks don't have internet. We'll put in a backbone line. We need a backbone fiber line to the project. I'm happy to make that line large enough to have taps for others in the community to have a life-changing event and have internet at your home. Top-tier battery management system. We're going to be using the highest quality, likely a fully integrated battery management system made by the manufacturer of the entire unit itself. So it's not some third-party communication device trying to talk to another piece of equipment that was generated by a separate group. We want to maintain that rural agricultural setting. So we're not looking to site this in an area where we're going to have to do any more tree clearing. It's already done. We don't want to increase noise on existing homes. We'll make that commitment. We can do that through baseline sound studies and then acoustics modeling of the technology we finally select. I want to continue grazing this property if that makes sense for everyone. I know there's interest from the existing family that is grazing to want to continue that. We're just going to put a fence or a visual sound wall around the project. The remaining about 15 acres of the land, the 37 that I showed you, we're not going to develop that. They'll remain as seen in that visual. And happy to have that rural setting be maintained, having a mixed use of the land. And the visual screening. You know, we chose this site because of all the vegetation that is around it to the north. It's hard to see from Metropolitan. We thought that was a great thing, but if there is any areas that aren't visually screened, the county is already wanting us to make sure we have at least, I think, 230 mature trees on the site. If we don't already have that, we'll continue to plant more mature trees and make a nice visual screen if anybody has a problem with what they're seeing. And partnering with local resources, including your emergency responders, to set up the appropriate plans, the testing required during an unlikely incident, the resources that they have available, we'll make sure they have them, and the training. So this isn't a one and done, develop a response plan, put it on a shelf and let it collect dust for 20 years. This will be a working document that we continuously improve in collaboration with your local emergency responders, including annual training on the updated codes, and that work gets implemented into a revised version, probably at least annually, into that emergency response plan. With that, I think that wraps up what I had to present. I would like to open it up to Q&A. Yes, please.
From the original meeting, I thought you said that you had already purchased the land and then the farmer was leasing it from you.
We do have a purchase agreement for the land, but the way our agreement works is that we have a right to execute on the option for the next number of years.
Okay.
So the purchase, we have an exclusive right to purchase the property. That is signed.
And then you'll own the property when you remediate the land, or when the land's remediated. You'll still own that property?
We would, but we're not long-term property owners. That's not our business. So what would likely happen is the land would be put up for sale at the end of the project life.
Okay, I've got one other question because I know a lot of people have questions. What is your valuation of building this? What is your cost to build this?
Somewhere around 250 million.
Okay, so to remediate the land and remove those batteries, from my understanding, hold on one second, and what I've researched, it can range anywhere from 12 to 50 plus million to remediate and have that happen. What is your anticipated fund, that you so call it, to the county
Yep.
to do this?
Yep. We will issue a bond for the estimated amount. And that bond will sit for the benefit of the county. And in the event it needs to be called upon because we just walk away, we will be able to call on that bond and have the funds available to do that work.
Okay, so if it's 50 million, you're putting 50 million into that bond.
That's right.
Right.
Does that bond grow as the years pass? Because what costs $50 million today doesn't cost that in 10 years.
I know, I wish that was true though, but it's not, you're right. So what we'll do is have a commitment probably every 5 years to reevaluate the estimated cost and update the bond amount.
Who decides the estimated cost of doing it, removal?
A third-party engineer would do the estimate to be approved by the county. That's the way we've seen it done in the energy model. Please.
I have several questions.
Yes.
So you're purchasing the property from who?
The current owner is an EV charging business. That was their plan for the property. They had the property, the name is a holding company called Holem Holdings LLC.
And so when you purchase the property, you're gonna change that from agriculture to industrial?
No, we are not.
Why?
We didn't feel that was the right thing to leave behind.
So you're gonna have a $250 million project on agriculture land, paying $2,800 a year in taxes?
No, that's not what we're doing, no. We'll have a conditional use permit, and the evaluated tax is estimated at about 19 million over the life of the project.
How many BESS facilities does your company currently have completed and in operation?
Accelergen Energy does not have any projects in operation. Myself and my business partners, we've been doing this for 20 plus years.
Okay, but my question was, this company right now,
Yes,
you guys don't have any facilities that are completed,
that's correct.
and a proven track record with your company, there's none,
Not under Accelergen Energy.
okay?
But as a company, as a team, we've probably put 60 plus projects into operation together from beginning to end. And we've operated and built out platforms, operating the largest privately held solar energy company in the world in 2016, which we sold to a utility company.
And did you put all of these in a residential area?
It was mixed. They were in about 20 different states,
Okay.
spanning from Virginia to Michigan to California.
So currently, what states do you have projects? I know you have Kansas, and I know you have Colorado, that's all I can find. But you're supposed to have 6. So what are the other 4 states?
We have projects in Kansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Utah, New Mexico. Lauren, am I missing anything?
No.
I think those
That's
are the
only
states.
5, everything says 6.
6, well, we have about 10 projects across those states. We have 3 in Kansas, 2 in Utah, 2 in Colorado, 1 in New Mexico, and 2 in Oklahoma.
So I just have a simple question. I live directly across from, we'll probably be able to see this.
Absolutely.
What is the benefit of your company doing this to me living there? I know all the downside things, but what do you say the benefit to me personally, living across the street from your battery plant is?
And internet and phones don't cut it,
Yeah,
We've got those.
or streets.
Well, I'd like to talk to you about that.
Go ahead.
No,
Yeah, I mean,
That's why we're here.
right?
Yeah, let's talk about that, and the road improvements as well.
I mean, I know the downside.
I mean, I've lived 35 years with those roads. I would need them coming in and putting them in.
That's what I'm curious, because I
I
know.
like my roads, that's why we moved out there. We
Right.
like the way it
I
is.
know the downside. I know the downside, but what is the benefit to me for it? I don't think it's gonna lower my taxes. My utilities aren't gonna get lowered for this being in there. BPU is gonna get lower energy costs. But what is my benefit? Why would I want this across from me?
ultimately, it does result in curb annual energy prices for you. So BPU, so our business model, we will sell the energy to a company like BPU. There's no commitment from BPU or us to sell to BPU.
That's the only company here.
Yeah.
The grid, you can, and this grid is operated through multi-state, so actually you can have customers, beyond just BPU.
But my energy comes from BPU, so.
In the transmission line.
Right, but if you,
But again, I just wanna know what the benefit to me is.
yep, so it's really that $9 million of production cost savings annually on the system, providing benefit to you. So it's really being able to capture that wind energy and deliver it locally to the grid and relieve that strain at that substation. That is the issue. And so while you won't probably ever in your life, none of us will see lower energy bills, projects like this are meant to curb those annual energy price increases.
Well,
So no-
BPU
no
will just
benefit.
sell it to some city next door.
Correct.
Right, they're not gonna,
Cause that's what they did
benefit
with the
for us.
substation, when they
Yeah.
shoved that down our throats.
it's just going to go to the next city that needs to buy
So how do you
electricity at that time. It's not going to stay here.
If you're gonna sell it to a different city, how do you propose getting it there? You're gonna pay for the transmission line from BPU and Evergy to send it there?
I mean, the entire country is connected, so you could move.
I know what the grid is.
Right, so you could move theoretically an electron from here to New York
You can't,
instantaneously,
but
right?
there again, you're gonna have to cross these property lines basically,
Yep.
because BPU ain't gonna let you use it for free. Just like Evergy ain't, New York's not.
Right.
It's not an open door.
You can move power across Southwestern Power Pool. It is an open access system, so I can make a virtual trade, or anybody independently, privately, can make a trade
New York.
from here to Texas and over up to the Dakotas.
Then we're back, but then we're back to selling it to someone out of state.
Right, and that's not what we're planning to do. We are talking
But you
local
don't,
energy providers and industrial
but
users.
you don't have an agreement with BPU currently that you
That
would
is
be
correct,
selling
we
to
do not.
them?
We do not currently.
Then,
Have you proposed one?
What I could probably say is they're aware of the project.
But you haven't proposed one.
They will have one.
Oh, have you proposed something to our local supplier?
We've made them aware of the project. They, have a need that this project very clearly fits, and we are in discussion about the opportunity.
Okay,
That's
so
what I can
second
say.
question, you stated that the project is $250 million. What is the valuation that you're gonna accept on your project for property evaluation?
The economic benefit,
No benefits, no savings. I wanna know, if you're gonna spend $250 million, what is gonna be the assessed value of your of this
Yeah.
project?
it's a great question, and I was talking about the economic report posted on the website. I would have to refer to that, I'm sorry, I don't have the
The
answer.
value of your property. Because right now, the only way that anybody in this room gains value from this project is not through sales tax, it's gonna be through property tax. So if you say you're gonna build a $250 million project and come back and because you have a conditional use permit for agricultural land, you want a $5 million valuation,
Right.
that is how your projects work.
That is not what we're going to do.
Then tell us what your proposed value is. This should be a number you already know.
You're right, I should. I apologize, I don't have it off the top of my head, but it is something I can get to tonight.
Because offering the community what they may save over 20 years is not,
No, I hear you. What we've done an assessment of this, using our $250 million valuation, okay? Not assuming ag land, but assuming it gets at the appropriately assessed valuation. Our estimate is 19 million over the lifespan. Based upon-
of what tax? What tax?
I know the question you're answering, I apologize, I do not have that.
Because Because here's the second.
Is that smart?
That is the property tax that's projected to be generated over the life of the project.
20 years.
Is the next.
That's right. I think he's asking, what is the assessed value of the property we're assuming to arrive at that?
Because I can tell you at $1 million a year from a $250 million project, your numbers don't match. More importantly, this is not a white wall project, meaning that the valuation isn't like a white wall commercial building. It can only be used for one kind of project like yourself. So if you guys are gonna put $250 million, what makes the valuation of that project that? Because it can't be used for anything else.
We agree.
So I just want you to tell everybody in this room that you agree that you should take a valuation to your project for $250 million.
Let me follow up with you on what the report says. I
don't want reports. This is, you
I'm not a
you are
tax-
the owner.
I'm not a tax
You are the
person.
one selling this.
You're right.
You should know this stuff.
You're right. I
This
should.
is more than this is not your first meeting.
You're right. I apologize. I should know that.
This should be in a slide. All of the slides you show are over generic.
Okay, thank you for that feedback.
So even if you did it if we did it based on what my property is valued at, right? And you divide it by your 250 million, you should be paying like, hold on, let me just do the math. You should be paying $5 million a year in taxes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And maybe that's what the county will tell us, you know,
yeah. I mean, if I'm paying that percentage, then we need to pay.
we are willing to accept whatever valuation the county puts on this project, okay? It will be up to us to decide whether or not it makes economic sense.
So I have
It
a
doesn't make
question.
economic
You've been
sense for
talking
us.
about these incidents that have gone down over the years, but they're not zero. Tell us about these incidents. Are we talking about fires, explosions, leukemia in children, leaching into the water and the ground? What exactly are these incidents?
Evacuations.
All of the
Yeah,
above.
Mike might have some answers. I do have an initial response to that. The incidents are primarily, not large fire incidents, but when there are fires, it has happened. It can happen,
Moss
absolutely.
Landing,
You're saying
Moss Landing
not even
is-
on your fire sheet, and that was in January of 2025.
Which one?
Moss Landing in
Yes.
California, that
Yes.
was just in January of 2025. It was not on your slide sheet.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that one up. So you may have heard of Moss Landing,
Yeah,
it was a fire in California.
and it was also a 300 battery,
Yep, it was a large installation. It
just
was,
like the one you want to put here.
it was very unlike the one we want to put here. It was actually very globally unique. And the key differences are, one, it was using technology made with cobalt, nickel, and manganese. Okay, so it generated that very high heat, had a battery that started to decompose, release oxygen, and create that self-propagating runaway. That was number one. Number two, it was on stacked containers. Okay, so not just an enclosure of one, but they would put one on top of the other because in California, in LA, it's very hard to find available land. So that developer thought they were really smart and decided to stack the containers. That created a lot of safety risks. And number three, it was put inside of a building built in the 1950s that was not up to code. They did
So
not
why
have-
isn't that being regulated? How are you going to regulate that and make sure that these safety precautions are in place?
Those codes are now in place, and Mike can speak to that, but that is not allowed.
But you're putting it around trees. So in our area, it's a residential area with forest land. Should that catch on fire, it's going to catch all of the trees on fire in that area.
Yep, and that is
And
some,
it will ruin it.
and that is something your fire department is well equipped in. That is a
Okay, but you
situation.
mentioned you wanted 230 trees left on the property,
Go ahead.
but let
Can
it
you
go
put a fire
away.
station out there?
I'm not
Sorry.
getting that.
A fire station. I mean, the
we
water
were
supplies
just-
are not good out there.
Thank you, yeah, and we're taking this very seriously. We were just, at Deputy Chief John's office today, talking with him and his assistant chiefs, about these issues.
Did they tell you how easily our water main breaks?
There's so money in the budget.
But they just, my water was turned off last week, so they can repair another leak.
That's common.
Yeah, as soon as you hook up to that fire hydrant, blows the main.
So if you'll allow me, let me start to unpack some of the questions. Because you're asking lots of good questions. You know, and I want to provide answers to you to the best of my ability. But before we keep the machine gun pace, let me start to unpack this a little bit. All right? So, Pam, you asked a question about these incidents. You know, and these are looking at emergency incidents, okay? Not long-term thing. This is, did we have to call 911 type of incidents, okay? So, and what happens with those? You know, initially, were we seeing runaway fires with the older technology? Yes. Are we seeing that now? No. Moss Landing came up, and that comes up in any discussion I've ever been involved. Moss Landing was a horrible event, and that's because of the factors that Josh was just talking about. A lot of mitigating circumstances. And when we talk about lithium-ion batteries, you know, Josh talked about it's the big class of things, right? You know, these are not the lithium-ion batteries they're asking about at the airport if you have them in your bags. I can say categorically there's a thing that's vehicles, right? There's a classification of vehicle. And lithium-ion batteries is much like that. We say vehicle. A Ford Model T is a vehicle. A Ferrari is a vehicle. But I think we can all agree the engineering and the technology and the advancements are wildly different. And the same thing with a Ferrari is a vehicle, and so is a dump truck. Okay? They're still vehicles, but there's so many different nuances. You know, and that's one of the main differences when we talk about Moss Landing is it's a completely different vehicle. You know, the fact that it was inside and the fact that they were double stacking the batteries and the technology they were using, it was horrible. It shouldn't have happened. We said, how do we prevent, why did that happen? Those things were allowed, and I'm not bad-mouthing the city of Los Angeles, but those things happened in Los Angeles. They were allowed. We can't be held accountable for that. And you said, you know, how do we make sure it doesn't happen? That's where your local ordinances and adopted fire codes come in. And we talked at great length with the fire marshal today about not only what Kansas City, Kansas is doing, but throughout the region, all of the fire marshals that have a consortium that just adopted the most recent fire code is in the 2024 fire code, just adopted that universally across the agencies. And inside that 2024 fire code, lithium-ion batteries and BESS facilities is specifically addressed, as is in that NFP 855 we talked about. Now, let me keep unpacking, right? So, questions came up about the trees. The biggest concern, from my perspective, when I come in and work with these communities, work with these fire departments, is preventing vegetation fires. That in the unlikely event if a fire should happen, control the vegetation fires, put out those spot fires so they don't spread and burn up not only the wildfire vegetation, but also that urban interface of the buildings that are amongst those trees, like your houses. Right? So we want to protect that. You know, and there's lots of pieces and components inside that NFPA code that talks about vegetation management, distances of setbacks, what type of surfaces you can use around this facility to minimize that. And then, quite honestly, I love what Josh told me this morning about probably going to let on the bigger property, the cows continue to graze. That's an aspect of vegetation management that doesn't normally happen on the bigger property in these type of facilities. Okay? So yes, we want to prevent and protect from the wildfire burning down those trees. Absolutely. Now you talked about, should there be a fire station? But then let me back up too, I had another thought around the trees. That same issue holds true. That's basically vacant property right now, right? And I read that people over the years, not, every day, not that it's, an epidemic, but people have been going out there and dumping their stuff out there, dumping their garbage out there, tires and pallets and
They do
stuff.
on 94th Street, or Metropolitan, under the bridge.
I'm betting all the local teenagers know about that problem. So if I go out there with a discarded cigarette, I go out there and start a little bonfire to have my little social party, that same risk exists of you could burn down all the trees. Those aren't new risks.
So there's the same danger you're telling me between a bonfire and
Right.
a battery plant.
Yeah.
That's what you just
That's
said.
what-
I'll tell you this, on the record, my friend, the
That's
risk
actually going into the soil.
is more concerning to me about somebody having a bonfire out there than putting that battery in. Let me tell you why. That bonfire is an uncontrolled event. That is an open flame event. That is a known fire, right? It's burning. There is no engineering system behind that. There is no preventative maintenance behind that. There is no monitoring associated with that. There's no alarm notification associated with that
Except
at
for the
all.
responsible homeowner doing the burning.
What's that?
Except from the responsible homeowner that's doing the burning. Unless you're gonna say we're ignorant.
No. I would never say that, ma'am, number one. Two, the example I gave is not a homeowner that's on this property where there is not a homeowner, and I talked about irresponsible teenagers. So,
We're gonna call someone on them. I mean, that's what we live there and watch.
right,
the property.
absolutely. And, like I said, just talking about the risk for wildland urban interface fires. Your question came up about, do we need a fire station there? That is a grand discussion, okay? Do you need a fire station there because the BESS facility is going in there? No.
Why not?
Let me explain, okay? Because the bigger question is, do you need a fire station there to protect your community? You live there. You might have a house fire. You might have a heart attack, right? So that happens on the fire department side if they look at the risk analysis. Services that Jensen Hughes has offered to Accelergen and was offered to the fire department today is we could come in and do a capability analysis. And we'll look at what's that response time? What resources come there, which is interchangeable with across the street to your house, right? So identify some of those gaps, all right? Sir?
So what is the fire protection cost for that? Because right now, the current fire protection covers the homes in the area. What is the added cost for fire protection for that facility?
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? I apologize. One of the requirements we have to have back to the county for this is when you have a question, can you please just state your name? Because we have to list those questions and what our responses were. Greatly appreciated.
On that, can I ask, is there any BPU, fire, county, city people that here tonight at all? And how are they gonna know what our responses to your proposal is?
Yep. I would ask, is anybody here representing any of those groups?
No.
Did you
So
hire?
I'm Commissioner Shunn's District 7, Wyandotte County, so I am taking notes.
Gordon Criswell, Mayor's Office. I've got 2 pages of notes so far.
Thanks for being here.
Do you guys know where the closest fire station is?
Hold on, let me answer the first question.
Can you state your name, sir?
My name is, and for the next one, it's easier if you just record these things. it'll give you all the things that they do. I mean, the $250 million project, that should be the least. The way we do the small things in life is how we do the big things, and we shouldn't be at the end of the meeting, an hour in, saying, oh, we need to stay.
I apologize, that's my fault.
But then, on the big thing, you come back and say, well, I'm sorry, it's my fault.
Fix
That's the problem with all of this something like that, it's so big at the beginning, and nobody knows the information, and you're expecting the community to then have support behind you. If you come to these, you guys should be prepared for this stuff. You guys should have the answer, you guys should know what you need to have. Not, I mean, if you're not organized now, when you're building a $250 million project, you're not going to organize it. So back to, what is the added cost for fire protection for a $250 million project?
Sure. And I'm not gonna engage in debate about property valuation.
No, I'm talking about fire
Yeah,
protection.
yeah. So can I unequivocally tell you today what the Kansas City, Kansas Fire Department is going to feel is their impact? I cannot speak to that. What I can tell you is that in my experience in looking at similar projects like this around the country, Jensen Hughes, my office, we think it's a pretty negligible expense because the incident volume is not there. If we put a 7-story nursing home there, they're gonna call the fire department a lot. And there's gonna be an impact.
Fire protection has to be able to cover the worst case scenario.
Sure. Yeah.
The worst case.
And it
Yeah,
becomes
tornado.
toxic when there is a fire.
And so
There are
you are the expert, so you should have this answer already. You should know by how many megawatts or whatever, how much it costs to protect that. That should be, that's an industry something.
Okay.
You're putting this in a
Yeah.
rural community, and if you talk to our fire chief today, you would also know that they are severely understaffed.
Yeah, we had that discussion today.
So then you should know it's gonna cost us even more money.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
No,
So, okay,
there's not theoretical. Go ahead.
So,
Can I just add real quick? Are you asking what it would cost for the fire department to have necessary equipment to
Correct.
put out said fire?
Yeah. He knows what, he knows.
I don't know if everybody's
He
following.
knew, that's why
That's what
I asked the way the language they use in his work, he knows.
yeah, appreciate the clarification, right?
Let's try this another way.
So when you
NFPA
talk about,
55 let's just try this another way.
sure,
NFPA 55 describes how the services for suppression is supposed to happen inside the trailers. The fires are supposed to be suppressed in the trailer before it gets out anywhere else. And so the idea that that's built into the technology, right? That's built into every trailer to have its own water supply, to do all that stuff. So we don't need extra people to do that. What we do need to understand, somebody brought it up over here, is what is the capacity of the flow rate going down that road. I went there today, there's 5 fire hydrants, red on, which is 500 gallons a minute. How much, we would want to calculate if one of these things catches on fire, what is evolving, that we need to put that out. For these kinds of lithium-ion batteries, it takes a long time for them to be cool, but you would contain it within one of those boxes. Jim, sir,
Are you a resident?
I am, I live right across the street.
I was asking, so we all know.
Can I ask one question? Do I need to give you my name? Karen Scheimer, SCHIEI. So,
I mean, it's.
I heard talk about cases, like the batteries are in cases and stacked in some mechanism. Are those cases protected by something like an alloy, like you talked about space earlier, heat shield, that would contain, if there was a fire in a specific case, would contain it within the case?
great question. Okay. So let me kind of chip away at some of the previous question that this gentleman asked me and some of the others, right? I heard somebody say, this is a rural community. I will tell you, from the projects that I work on, this is an urban community, comparatively resource-wise. That we're coming in and working with fire departments that are a one-station volunteer fire department with 14 people, with no fire hydrant, in their municipality. That's honest, that's true. Now, do I say that they're completely prepared? Not always. That's where that assessment happens. So I'll respectfully disagree when you say I should know what the cost of that would be. We offered to engage that capability assessment, fire department, at no cost to the fire department or the taxpayer. Sellerton was kind enough to do that. That's where that assessment comes. Because when you're talking about the people and the resources and what do they get paid and how many fire trucks do they have, that's an in-depth analysis. And I'll be very honest with all you folks, right? Because I work for a separate company. I don't work for Sellerton, I work for Jensen Hughes. And until Jensen Hughes is engaged to do that work, I'm not going to do all that work. I'm just being brutally honest with you. I don't get paid. My company doesn't get paid, and then they fire me. And I'm categorically opposed to that concept. So we've offered that to look at when that worst case scenario happens, or the most mundane thing happens, what is the fire department's capability? Where is the gap? And what needs to happen to close that gap? But for me to do that now and do all that work is like me paying child support before I go on the first date. I can't do that. It doesn't make sense, okay? Your questions about it, valid, but I can't bring that to the table until I'm engaged to do that. Go ahead. And I'll come back to your question.
Worst case scenario, catches on fire. How do you put it out?
Yeah, great question. That's going to come back. I'm going to tie these two together, if that's okay. So I talked about this is an engineered system. And you will hear people just kind of anecdotally throw it out there, this is a shipping container. That helps you get a picture of size, shape, but it is far from a shipping container. It is an engineered vessel to contain, well, I'll talk about the engineering that happens inside of it to make sure it doesn't catch on fire, but it is engineered to contain that fire, and also, you talked about the coatings and stuff. It is built to prevent auto exposure. What that means is if one catches on fire, it burns up the next one and the next one and the next one. Some of that is accomplished through the code, through that spacing, but some of it is through the construction of the container itself. And I'm coming your way, all right? Bits. So what, like I said, this is a smart container. It is monitored to the individual cell level. So again, this is not how the technology works, but I just want you to help conceive this in your brain. It's like a AA battery is.
Where is it monitored at though? Because there's not going to be anybody on site. How's it monitored?
Correct. Much like at the bank, the burglar alarm is monitored off-site. So it's done by computer. There is a live human being that sits there and watches for that alarm. So what happens is, if they start to see a disruption at that cell level, it starts shutting down the system. It shuts that cell down. It can shut the rack down, where they've got this picture mini AA batteries. It can shut the whole unit down. That is designed to keep it from catching fire in the first place. There is some engineering systems in there, and depending on which model you end up buying, whether you buy a Ford or a Chevrolet, they may look a little different. Some of them have clean agent, where they will suppress fire in there. Okay? Then, when you say, how do we put it out? And I heard somebody talk about toxic gases too. Let's say one of these catches on fire. And I'll come back to put it out. But catches on fire. Anything that catches on fire produces a toxic gas. You burn your garbage, it's going to produce a toxic gas.
Oh, yeah.
That is absolutely a fact. Okay? Now, On the other side of COG there, I was driving around this morning, I saw the household chemical waste storage facility. I don't know what's in there. That changes day to day, probably hour to hour. We very much know what the off-gassing of that product is, specific to the manufacturer. That's been tested, that's been evaluated, and we know what toxic chemicals are gonna come off there. Any other firehouse the fire department goes to, any other structure the fire department goes to, they have no idea. We can tell you definitively. And what we will do, and we've done in other circumstances, is what's called a plume model. One, we'll do a hazard mitigation analysis where we'll look at what are those hazardous materials that could potentially come from this product. That has to be done. Accelerated is happy to do it anyway, but you're gonna, this program's gonna get it. And when we look at plume modeling, that is unique. We will look at it unique to that exact spot. Look at weather conditions, things like that. I'll get you.
Did you say weather conditions?
Yeah, like normal, you know, that normally the wind blows from the west, you know, in this
Well,
area. So, you know,
So I'm trying to ask, since this system, this company, this box will be monitored off-site.
mhm.
We have F4 tornadoes that come through here. Rarely, but we have F4s. So if a monitor sees a weather report that says there's a high potential of an F4 coming in my direction, that's gonna trigger shutting down your system?
Not that there could be.
To prevent a fire?
What's that?
To prevent a fire, if an F4 comes across and destroys this building, won't there be a potential fire?
Yes, but it's, to qualify, that there's a tornado warning for this area to proactively shut down, no. What it detects is the disruption. How many times have you had a tornado warning? And I'm not trying to be flip, but how many times you had a tornado warning and didn't tear your house down?
Well, but the people say there's a tornado warning, you need to take shelter immediately, whether the tornado comes or not. And you know, 85% of the time, the meteorologists get the stuff wrong.
Right.
But you want to protect your family and your property, so you go take shelter. Same thing with this building. If there's a tornado warning and it's on the ground, there's gonna be a fire, that building is gonna be blown to smithereens. Are you gonna engineer for that, or how do you prevent the fires that they were talking about when you've got an F4 that's putting everything in the kindling?
Yeah, I think if there's an F4, I think there's a lot of problems for the community. This may be one of them. The way it's mitigated is these enclosures are fastened to concrete pads. They are not easily moved. And they are designed for certain wind loads, snow loads, severe convection storms like you're talking about per code, at a minimum.
Can you answer what the metal is, what the metal casing is around the individual units within the trailer?
Yeah, so the way a enclosure is assembled, start with a battery cell, which is it looks like a brick. It's basically the size of a couple bricks stacked on top of each other. That's the battery cell. And that is an airtight enclosure that has the material in it. From there, those cells are put on a rack and wired in series, just like a Christmas light, on a rack. And then those racks are wired together to form the BESS enclosure. The monitoring of the system is done at the cell level. So we will know the state of health of every single cell in the system, and will automatically get a notice if any cell is exhibiting behavior out of normal operating conditions. So we can proactively address it and prevent it from going into a state that we're talking about here, which is unlikely due to all the protections.
necessarily separate. They're all in the trailer lined up, but they're not necessarily separated. Say like
Oh,
a
I see what you're
100
saying.
and another 100.
Yes, they are,
another
they are
100
separated.
With a protection around them.
Yep.
What is the material around?
The cell separators are typically steel, and then there's separation between the module arms, like physical separation,
Haven't forgotten.
to prevent that cell-to-cell heat transfer.
So what I'm gonna tell you about this catching on fire is gonna, coming from a lifelong firefighter, and it's counterintuitive. And the public's perception, the public's expectation of what a fire department does, this is gonna be counterintuitive. Because when we look back here, you know, part of the problems around that is, what's the fire department supposed to do? See a fire, put water on it. Strategies and tactics around these facilities is dramatically changing in the American Fire Service. And I'm gonna say something, you're probably all gonna go, oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that, you can't accept that, no. In that unicorn event, where the fire gets to the point that it breaches that container, I want it to continue to burn. Because what happens is, one can put 1 million gallons of water on there, and now we've created this Superfund site with products of combustion potentially into the creek. Right? And now we've got to abate all that stuff. We're better off, let that unit run its course.
For how long? How long will it burn?
I'll give you a very technical answer. Depends.
Tell
So
us that.
some of it depends on, and it's unpredictable, it depends on the level of involvement of it. And it's gonna depend
The technology.
on the
used.
technology that's used,
Right,
right?
but you guys told us what technology.
Right.
So therefore, worst case scenario, that catches on fire, you should know how long that's gonna burn.
Yep. These technologies are very hard to actually get to ignite into a fire.
Got it, you don't know.
We don't, absolutely. I mean, every case can be different. It could be that day, it could be a few days. But it won't be a volatile fire for days.
There's gonna be volatile chemicals in the air that we're breathing, and that our children are breathing, and that our old people are breathing.
What we know is that the chemicals are very similar. Most of the chemicals are very similar to that of a common residential house fire, including VOCs and carbon monoxide. The remaining materials are
But a
organic
house doesn't
solvents.
burn for days.
Organic solvents that are typically used in your house paint, your vinyl flooring, your vinyl siding, your insulation, everyday products we use. Hydrogen cyanide, that's emitted in a house. That is no different than what we're doing here.
Except yours is gonna burn for days, right?
But won't be emitting toxic gases like that.
Going back to the burn for days part, right? Part of that reason historically why they've burned for days is because we put water on it. That, you know, I told the story to the fire department today, but as a young firefighter, my city had a huge warehouse fire. It was a warehouse that stocked everything for convenience stores. And we were there for 10 days. And we put over 1 million gallons of water on that fire. And this was my observation as a pretty young, naive firefighter. I said, well, the fire gets a little bigger and we put it out. Well, the roof had collapsed. What's a roof supposed to do? It's supposed to shed water. If we would have just let the thing burn and burn itself out, we wouldn't have been there for 10 days. So that lack of spraying water on it is going to shorten the length of that fire duration.
And the lack of the heavy metals, which cause extreme heat, will also shorten that duration.
You know, and you made the comment about, you know, people are breathing this in. So to talk a little more about plume on it, I said, we'll do one that is specific to this location, to this facility. But what I see come out of these when we do plume on is maintain a distance of 35 feet, which I hope all of you would do. You would stay 35 feet away from a fire. And you're talking about the whole atmosphere of air. You know, and we have a cute little term where we talk about in the fire service and emergency response, dilution is the solution to pollution. We see that absorbed into the atmosphere, and that plume, that toxic gas, is at a ceiling of 350 feet. So hopefully, none of you are up at 350 feet in the air to breathe that, and then it gets dispersed in the atmosphere and is benign. You've had a question forever, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Nicole Crossan, I just want to make a couple things perfectly clear. You are moving into an agricultural, rural type area, as there's 23 acres and cows that's going to be around this proposed facility. Number one, clarification. Number two, if the Moss Landing wasn't that big a deal, do you realize how deceiving it is for us to believe anything you're telling us because you left it off of a prepared slideshow to come and talk to us about?
Yeah, just to qualify, I never said Moss Landing was not a big deal. I said it was a horrible tragedy.
But do you see how that looks when it's not listed on your 2025 chart for project safeties? That was an event that just happened.
This goes up to the end of year 2024.
But you're here to us now talking in 2026.
Right, and
So
we're
why
not,
was that not put on your slide?
we're happy to talk about Moss Landing.
But do you understand the perception of what that looks like to come to our community and say that safety and try to minimize the fears that the community has about this and say, oh no, it's not gonna be bad, oh no, we know what it's made out of.
Yeah,
Do you
let me offer-
realize that?
Yeah, let me offer a clarification. You very clearly stated that this information comes from a database.
Well, I can do a quick Google search and find it if I search BESS unit fires nationwide.
Right, but that was not the search engine, you know, the search parameters. We said, this is the information that's coming from this reporting body. And that reporting body, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that reporting body has not released numbers for 2025.
So you
That
just
is-
conveniently left that part out.
No, not conveniently. That's, if you ask, go down to the county and ask today, I want data from 2025. I want to know how much water was used. I want to know how much property tax was assessed. I want information from 2025. They're going to tell you, we are closing out that year in January, in the first 2 weeks in January, we're not going to have data for you in 2020, for 2025. That's just the way data management works. Okay, so it's not intended to be misleading. Josh gave and I'm not trying to be confrontational, but Josh gave the information that's available from this reporting body. This is a vetted, credible source. Now I can get on Facebook and look at what's there supposedly a BESS fire in Outer Mongolia. I don't know that that's credible. So we're offering you a credible source.
The EPA is correct.
We agree, and I want to make clear that we're trying, this is an effort of transparency, okay?
To put it in a
Thank you for the
residential
feedback.
agriculture
Thank you for the
area.
feedback. I will make these commitments to you regarding Moss Landing. We will obligate ourselves to do everything Moss Landing didn't before we can be awarded a building permit, okay? And that's, we will not double stack containers. We will not use NMC technology containing heavy metals. We will not operate this system without a battery management system at the cell level. We will not commence operations with an emergency response plan that has buy-in from your fire department. We will not operate this system without being up to the codes and standards of the time in the future, okay? We're happy to make all those commitments. We're making a $250 million investment. We don't want it to set on fire either. If I do allow this to set on fire, it's probably the last one we do. Okay, I won't have a social license
Well, it's the
to
first
do another one
First
anywhere
one.
else. So I am extremely aligned with you to not have this extreme event happen.
Would you be willing to put, security security there 24/7 within the development agreement so that someone is on site? I mean, people do sabotage things as well. Just curious if you would be willing to put that in the development agreement, that someone would be on site 24/7.
That sounds reasonable.
Okay, I have a couple questions. My name is Teresa. First, who makes the battery? Where's the battery coming from?
Yep. Okay, so we haven't made a final selection because construction on the project won't start for another 3 years.
Where are they mostly manufactured?
South Korea today, okay? South Korea today. However, LG and Samsung, being the two primary from South Korea, they have manufacturing facilities building cells in Indiana, Michigan, and integrating in Arizona. They have partnerships with groups like Tesla and Ford. And those groups are expanding those facilities and making bigger investments to meet the demand here in the United States.
All right, who gets to help you make the contingency list for this zoning?
I would say the concerns of yours that you have, I would voice those to us, to your planning commission, to your commissioners, and that can be decided to be put as a condition on the permit. Like I was talking earlier, these sorts of commitments and the suggestion to have security or monitoring somebody, at least someone on site 24/7, those are conditions that can be put into a permit that acts as a contract for us to comply with before we're awarded a building permit.
Okay, and so can we see that list before the commissioners vote? They vote February 9th.
I wouldn't see, I think it would be unreasonable for you not to see that list before it gets voted on.
Okay, and then I was reading, so with the zoning, you never have to be zoned. It can be conditional for infinity until you're done. How long are the batteries really gonna last? From what I'm reading, anywhere from only 13 to 20 years. So are we really only here? After you get it set, 3 years for that amount of time, and then it's gonna go home just as
Yes, 20 years is the intended lifespan. And so at the end of 20 years, we will decommission the project, restore it to its existing condition, including grading, and the conditional use permit will expire because the project will no longer be operating, but the conditional use permit will expire, and the zoning will be returned to its current state.
Okay, so you're just a 20-year project.
Correct.
And you're gonna be on conditional zoning, which really doesn't have a tax base. It won't have a specific label.
Right, I see what you're saying. This question came up earlier. We have had a third party do an independent tax assessment. They do this nationally for all sorts of industries, serious tax advisors. And they evaluated the estimated taxes based upon a $270 million capital investment, applied the necessary, assessment values based upon this use, not land use. And that's what
Okay,
they
because
came up with.
Olin right now, well, what I look up on Olin, they have continued to get their that property devalued, while mine is going up thousands upon thousands.
And that's completely unfair. I wouldn't let that happen.
So,
And I'm happy to make that.
You wouldn't, but that doesn't mean your
I'm
company's gonna want you. You
What I
can't
mean by
commit to that.
is that could be a condition in the permit.
We don't have a permit, so that would solve that problem.
Yeah, we just don't want you.
What is the projected annual sales? What's your projected annual sales?
Projected annual
Your
sales.
revenue, yeah. And will these sales be based in Wyandotte County or out of state?
We are estimating, I would say 15 to 20 million annually gross revenue.
And where will the revenue be based out of, Wyandotte County or out of state?
Where will the energy be sold?
Where will the sales be based out of? Will it be based out of?
Here in the
Wyandotte?
county.
It'll be, so you'll be, so it'll be 15 to 20 million, right? As you said,
Correct.
in Wyandotte County.
Yes.
And then so are you also willing to pay the sales tax sell to a data center in the state of Kansas?
Yes.
Because if you, are you gonna put that in your contract? Because if you sell it to the data center in the state of Kansas, they don't pay sales tax. They have a sales tax exemption.
We don't have a sales tax.
No, no,
You
don't pay
don't,
the
but the
sales,
purchaser.
the purchaser pays the
Oh,
sales.
on the energy sales?
So
Correct.
if,
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
so are you willing to, and where I'm getting with these questions is, you're asking the residents to support your project, but so far, there is no benefit. Let's take the health and safety. We have to assume that the safety and fire is gonna be taken care of. But the difference is, you're bringing a $250 million project, that you're gonna be making money from our community, being in our community, and you are claiming to only pay $1 million a year in property tax. But a simple basis is $4.9 million on a $250 million project. So that number is already drastically wrong. And also, I don't think you guys are I know you're not willing, you're not gonna do it, but to pay the sales tax that's not to be collected.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think we're willing to pay whatever
I know
the
that's,
local jurisdiction.
yes,
imposes.
I understand. The problem is, these projects very much don't pay anything. Your project isn't any different
What are you
than,
basing this on?
because right now in the state of Kansas, when you sell that power to a data center, which is where this is going, the reason why you run our community, because we are not at the loss of power here. We don't have a power, we don't have power problems. More importantly, we have excess power because we have BPU that doesn't even produce close to what they need to pay. So we don't have windmills in our area, so you're not saving you're doing that for out of state, you're reselling out of state. But if you sell it to a data center, there is no sales tax collected.
We will have sales tax on our revenue.
Not if you sell it to a data center. The state of Kansas passed that statute.
Okay.
Why don't you just partner with BPU?
Yeah,
We get a benefit and then
I would
don't have to
love
worry
but
about the
we're
sales
not-
tax.
We would love that.
the value, why didn't you bring somebody with you?
What's that?
I mean, so the person, the group that could speak for our entire community is somebody from BPU. It's a publicly owned utility.
Correct.
The value would have been to bring somebody in here from them, since you met with them.
Yep.
Because I don't know who you met with, but I asked 9 people in the last 2 days, and not one of them met with you, so I don't know who you met with.
We've met with your general manager,
Who?
your CFO, and your chief operating officer.
What's their name?
Andrew Ferris.
Okay.
We met with Jarvis, your chief operating officer, I believe his name was.
Jeremy Ash.
And then Jeremy Ash, your general manager.
And why wouldn't they show up? If it was a benefit to us and them, why wouldn't they show up?
They are not a partner of the project currently.
They are a partner of us,
They were invited.
and they chose not to show up.
That's
Exactly. So you invited Jeremy Ash to show up. So I can call him tomorrow and say, did they invite you to show up tonight?
You don't have to, I just text him.
But what is he gonna say? What is he gonna say? Because honestly and transparently,
Tucker, do you recall who specifically we invited?
no, you are presenting this, my friend.
No, and I have a
Did you
team,
invite them?
and I have a team, and I'm asking my team, who specifically we invited.
I personally invited Jeremy and Amber Oddie and Andrew Ferris.
What did he say? They don't care.
No, we were with them this morning, in fact, in a meeting, and he said he would try to make it, but like everybody, other schedules. So they're well aware of this project.
But when was this meeting presented?
Oh, I sent that invitation about 2 weeks.
Can we assume that if we knew about this weeks ago, inviting somebody like Jeremy Ash, that is the head of BPU, who's probably a busy gentleman, inviting him this evening from this morning was probably not the way to get him.
I invited him like.
Kind of like the info on the first meeting when we received it the day of the meeting.
Yeah, we received it in the mail, the first meeting, that's why we weren't able to attend it, it came the day of the meeting.
We didn't know about the first meeting, and we only live across the street.
Yeah.
You think that might have been on purpose?
I wonder.
I'd like you to address the noise level. You did talk about acoustic modeling and how it was gonna reduce the noise level. My research shows that these plants typically produce at least 90 decibels of noise, which is more than double the residential limits of 45 decibels. reduction does your predictive model show?
We typically see 50 to 55 decibels at the fence line.
So it's still gonna be pretty loud. These things have the noise level of turbine engines.
Here
We don't-
is
we
a
don't see
noise
that.
survey that is done at the site. And you'll already see that it's not at the level you described. It oscillates entirely between morning traffic and the evening, so nothing there goes to 90 decibels. So I offered to put a noise monitoring system on anybody's house they want. We have 3 of them, and we can collect data at your house. I am mostly concerned about noise, so I did it on my house. It's 45.
45 is the maximum residential limit.
Well,
So that's pretty loud.
it's better, no, it's actually better when you can hear it all. You can hear it.
Out where we live, noise carries. We'll hear it. It's We have trains. We have trains.
Hey, hold on, she's trying to talk.
If it's such a big investment, why only a 20-year lifespan? And if after the 20 years, why not re-implement it? Because of the level of investment, what makes it just in that 20 years?
20 years is typically the performance of these batteries. Batteries do degrade over time. And so after 20 years, without adding additional batteries, which is called augmentation, the system is not providing the capacity to somebody like BPU necessary to really justify the investment anymore. They can be reused, salvaged, recycled, or disposed of safely.
Can I piggyback on her? So when the sodium ion technology comes, could there be a switch out of technology that would make the facility be there longer and be of the benefit of the staff? Because that's a safer battery technology once it gets to
Yeah,
that point.
potentially. It is a technology that is up and coming. Sodium ion is the question. Vendors outside the country are already switching to sodium ion because it is proving to be a good use case for a lot of applications. It has commercial barriers to entry into the market still, cost being one of them. But I think within 3 years, it could be potentially a viable technology for a project like this.
That's the same you do, do a switch.
You never answered my question. How many decibels of noise reduction does your predictive model show?
We will abate it to existing levels at all nearby residences, or we will not be allowed a building permit, and we're happy with that condition.
Are you able to share the results from the Kansas biologists and all those reports that you got back?
Absolutely, it is a public document right now, all those items are public
Where can we
documents.
find those at?
You would have to call your planning staff. It's all been submitted, but they are public documents. But I'm happy to grab your email and
Yeah.
send them directly to you.
For sure.
Yep.
Yes, a few years ago, they tried, Richard Petty and his organization tried putting in a camp for disabled children. And that was eventually denied because of the environmental impact and of the red-bellied snake was taken off the endangered species list in 2015. And my understanding is that the state does not want to disturb their habitat, which is part of that area over there. So that way they don't go back on the endangered species list. What is this gonna be on the environmental impact of the native wildlife?
Yeah, that's a great question. Environmental impacts are something we also take very seriously. We have done on-site assessments. We've had licensed biologists in the state of Kansas do on-site pedestrian surveys to identify any potential species habitat of endangered or critical or listed species. They submitted the findings of those reports, which did not find anything.
There's no
of danger.
wildlife?
No critical, endangered, or listed species are on there. And those reports were submitted to both Kansas Department of Fish and Game and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We spoke with both those agencies, and they have provided written correspondence back to us stating that there are no potentially negative impacts associated with the proposed project.
understanding, but we'll let it go for now.
I'm happy to provide it directly to you. You can grab your email, you can grab it after the show, I'll give you my business card. Happy to send those reports
What
to
was the
anybody.
question? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, yes, she was asking if I could send the reports to her in the correspondence from Fish and Wildlife and Kansas City, so I'm happy to do that.
What you're proposing, is it proprietary, or can somebody just put a plant 5 miles from here and do what you're doing?
Any licensed business can put power onto the system as a private independent power producer.
So it's not proprietary.
What we're doing is not proprietary, no. We have trade secrets in how we identify locations like this that are starving for power, affordable power during peak hours. But what we do in terms of operating the facility is not proprietary. It's a very common business model that goes back all the way to coal and gas plants. Utilities are cash consuming, just like any other business, and so they can't own every single asset. They end up buying power from independent power producers like Accelergen through long-term contracts.
And do you have a chart or data on that we are consuming all this energy? Because Wyandotte County is pretty quiet. It's not going to be because they're selling us. But, you know, I figure that's where the electricity is going, or maybe it's our data plants. But where are you getting that data from?
Yep. So Kansas City Board of Public Utilities posts their energy forecasts through their integrated resource planning. That is a document on their website. And through conversations with them and other load-serving entities like Evergy, the demand is forecasted to double through this decade.
Where do you?
I understand.
Do you have any, because I kind of breezed through here pretty quickly, do you have any literature or documentation that kind of shows what the setup looks like on the inside?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The question was, do we have any photos or documents that show what the enclosures look like on the inside? Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
My name is David Fromm, and my question is, what is the proposed timeline for this project, assuming everything goes according to plan?
The earliest we would commence construction at this point, realistically, is in 2028. It's possible we could start operations in 2028, but likely 2029.
When would construction start?
2028. I would say as early as 2028.
It's gonna take you over a year to get that road there.
Yeah, that's I'm Jason Wagner, I live directly east of the property that you want to put this on. That's what I'm asking, like BPU. The roads, the one thing that you said, in this whole thing that piqued my interest was approving the roads of 88th and Metropolitan Avenue. Been complaining about that since I've lived there. So I guess my question is, you can't really widen that road without getting on other people's easements and BPU's easements and everybody else's. So I guess I want to see something that says how you're going to improve the roads, what are you going to do to them, and that before you, I mean, is that going to happen when we get a building permit? Is that all talked about and discussed before the building permit's issued, and who looks at that stuff?
That's a great question. So the way that typically works is the condition to improve 88th Street and Metropolitan would be put on our permit, our conditional use permit, as a requirement to get a building. So that would require proactive involvement with your road department to discuss how that will be done, and that won't be done overnight, to your point. Right. So if the permit is awarded in the near future, we would start that work to understand how that's done. I understand there's some erosion problems, the culverts are undersized.
Yep.
All that we would love to see.
I mean, the infrastructure needs removed, I mean, it's a process, I guess.
Yep.
I guess putting new blacktop on the road is not what I would say would be an improvement to the road.
We agree.
And you gonna widen all this before you start the project or after?
We would widen it before. We would put, widgets, do the rural, Ricky with your road department was thinking a rural profile, maybe a 12-foot lane on each side with a ditch profile on either side.
Good luck.
Taking my things out.
Metropolitan, I understand, is important from the people that are on that road, but there's views in the surrounding area that are such that they would be able to see this plant, and not just a bunch of trees and all the pictures you're showing right now, because the surrounding area can almost look down upon this, if not right at it. And what are those views going to look like?
Yeah, so the question is, what it would look like from the homes up here?
Yes.
My understanding is you wouldn't have a clear line of sight through this vegetation to the project due to the size of the trees and the topography.
Well, I know the next door neighbor is going to see it pretty easily. And people on 88th Street, what's it going to look like from 435? You know, all the things for the community in the area. The picture from Metropolitan, I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Yep.
Yeah, on that hill. I'm Miles, I live in that property that's right there across the street from it. So, I can see the top of that hill clear as day. I can see all those cows up there every day.
Yep. So we had a consultant do the visual modeling based upon on-site topography and the layout. And this location here at the entrance was the only location their models were telling them it was visible from minus 435 Metropolitan. And then when we did the modeling, this is what it was resulting in. You might be able to see a couple of the holes from Metropolitan. We have not done modeling from any residents here.
That's my house.
Due to the visual screening existing, we are not touching any of this. This will all be maintained. We want to maintain this natural buffer all the way around.
Are you gonna own that piece of property that's to the east of where you're gonna build?
We do not have this property under control.
Who owns that?
That is a company that has it under the name of Oldham Holdings LLC.
That's the Ford company you're talking about.
That's the company we have the agreement with.
How tall is the building that you're gonna build? I mean,
Yeah, the enclosures are typically, 7 to 8 feet tall.
and how wide, I mean, you're talking, you
Yeah.
have that big box there, but how
Yeah.
much?
Yep. Think of a 30 to 40 foot shipping container visually. That's what the enclosure size is.
Can you go back to the picture of the entrance? Okay, so you show the gate there, and then you show the road. So you're gonna put the road where the gate is,
Yes, that's the proposal in the current layout.
and that is not within the green area, correct? It's not.
It is within the green area, yes, it is right here.
It's right there. Because the power, that is the power relay station, right?
Yes, this is the power station here.
So the entrance is way down there by your house.
Right,
It's further than you
right.
say.
Because
It's right across the street from Elias's house,
yeah,
Which
Where it
that
is
little
now.
road right
Yeah.
there, that's the.
between your house and Elias's house.
so you're using 88th Street to bring all that stuff in, or you're using 94?
We would exit out 435 on the top, and then improve 88 and Metropolitan up to the entrances.
And that's before, but then are you gonna put the road after?
Yes, they would be.
No damn way you're gonna get the trucks there.
The road would be
Metropolitan,
improved
no.
prior to construction.
So you're gonna take part of mine and
Sorry, I can't.
how much you're running trees on my easement to the road for something that I don't want.
Correct.
Yes.
You're gonna take my fence out.
Do you realize our gas line is a foot off the road? You gonna move that shit too?
We would have to move all the stuff to make the 12-foot road width work.
Yeah.
They gotta move
Okay, so in addition to everything else that does not benefit us, you wanna take part of our property, you want to make it so we cannot get in and out for a period of time when you're doing something with the road, and then You're going to make it so nobody has, so there's no gas while you do that also? No. Or water.
So I think what we could do, we're not, the 12-foot lane suggestion was an initial suggestion. That is not by any stretch an approved cross-section that we're doing.
But that's what you told us you wanna do.
This was a suggestion from the road department.
What is
that we
that,
got.
what's the cost on that?
So it'd be about a mile of road improvement.
A mile? How much, what's your projection?
You know, I would say per foot of road improvement, it'd be, you know, $50 a foot, 50 to 100 bucks a foot.
Right, but you can't make the road wider on the north side of the street unless you're gonna move every single one of those high power poles.
So
But
then
if
the-
you want, you can just take them out, we don't care. But,
We'll do
so
that,
you're
yeah.
gonna be on my side of the street, taking more of my property.
So the solution might then be to not have the road widened, but have it improved, but not have it widened, and then just use traffic control during the short construction period to manage up and down 80.
Oh, so once again, you wanna interfere with us being able to get to and from and out and all of that.
Just during a construction period.
No,
but
it
then-
doesn't matter, so just during construction period, if I decide I wanna go to the grocery store, I can't. If I need to go to work or come home from work, I can't. If I decide I wanna go to the Moose Lodge and have you a frickin' beer at 8 o'clock, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I can't because you don't want me to.
No, I don't think so. That's not right.
Yes, it is. It is.
How many of these that have been put in residential areas? It's Red Hogan, and how many of these have been put in residential areas that have kept the homeowner's property taxes neutral or low? You know,
And what has it done to the property value?
and property value.
That, I
And
am
the
not a tax
marketability of
expert,
selling.
nor do I speak on behalf of your taxing authority.
Okay,
It
how
would be a
about
question.
value of the home?
What about the marketability?
Marketability value of the home, once there's a big battery plant that they can see from my house.
Has there been a study?
What we would see is a pretty quiet neighbor that is not increasing noise, creating odor, or
But what you
increasing.
don't
No, wait,
understand,
you just
from
said
the
it
second
could-
floor of our house, you can.
And you just said it could go up to
Absolutely.
90 decibels is
No,
what
I
we
did not
researched.
say that.
We researched that it could go up to 90 decibels possible or more.
We don't see that with the technology we're choosing.
Okay, but see, here's the
But
bottom
do you want
line.
to live next to it? Would you want to live next to it?
He's gonna say he would.
Yeah, of course, because he's making millions of money.
Because we're talking about people, some of us have lived here, my daughter's the 5th generation to live in my home. These are lifelong families that have lived in this area, and you're talking about their home. So that's why I ask respectfully, would you want to live next to this?
I would see it as a quiet neighbor that would prohibit other development, yes.
Because he's making a few $1 million off of selling that to you.
Well, and here's the long and the short in that, no disrespect whatsoever. So we're having this meeting tonight, which is supposed to be the meeting before it goes to the planning commission on February 9th, correct? Because we're supposed to have all the information, right? But your information is ever changing. First, there's gonna be a real, nice big wide road. Now there's not, because you're gonna have to take our property. There's going to be this type of battery, but in 3 years, it could be a different type of battery. You see what I'm saying? You guys have nothing set in stone, except you want to come in and put this right in the middle of our neighborhood.
Subject to all the conditions and requirements that you put on us.
Okay, our
Okay, well, I
requirements,
want
we
no
don't want.
requirement that my house value's not gonna go down, but you're not gonna give me that.
Where else did you look to put that in?
No.
This location,
Yeah,
we looked all in a 12-state area.
okay, in Wyandotte County, where else did you think about putting it?
This was the location that had the highest price volatility, we call it, meaning the most congested area.
Metropolitan did?
That area out there does not,
That particular substation. And
That-
with that technical aspect of it, it also offered a site that was already cleared and a site that had access from an interstate.
It don't have
And
access.
also had existing
No access.
natural
No access.
screening surrounding it. So we saw it as an area that was infrastructure ready for a project.
We suggest you pick one of the 13 states.
We evaluated all of the 12 states in Southwest Power Pool and looked at over 150 substation locations at the 115 kV level, which this is at. And this particular substation was in the top 5% of the most price volatile locations. I shared that information today with your local energy provider, and they were not surprised to hear that.
We suggest you put it someplace that's not in the middle of people's houses.
Correct, industrial area. Take the Fairfax.
Take the caves.
Move it someplace, we don't want it in that area.
No, we don't want it.
Not at all.
I mean, is there anybody here that wants it? Anybody? Raise your hand if you want it here. Okay, what's that tell you? We don't want you.
Not at all.
He didn't care.
He doesn't. He wants to make millions of dollars, and he's willing to sacrifice every single person in here to any extent to make it, because all he cares about is making his millions of dollars, and he's willing to sacrifice our homes, he's willing to sacrifice our values, he's willing to make sure that you can't get in and out of your house.
That's
Because
not
he
true.
doesn't, because of the road.
If I am happy, to make the project, I want to partner with you.
We don't want to partner with you, we want you to go elsewhere.
But you don't have any facilities completed.
I do.
But this company,
Correct.
to verify, you don't.
What's the
You
difference
said you
between me
didn't.
doing this under the banner of Intelligent or the banner of my previous company?
Because you work for a cellular now, and not the other company.
Okay?
I don't know,
Experience.
well, I don't know what this other
The
company
experience is
required
not-
you to do. And I don't care.
And maybe
We don't want it.
We don't want it.
So we want to, I don't have answers on the technology or the exact road spec. And I don't have the spec on what your baseline noise levels are at your existing residences. But I'm happy to be subject to making sure that we have a road spec that we build that you're all happy with and your county
We're not
agrees
happy
with.
with any of it,
Prior
we
to
don't
any
want
building
it.
part.
You're not listening, we don't want it.
And I'm also happy to have a condition to use a technology that is proven to be the safest in the industry.
But you want this
Containing
condition
no heavy metals.
after they voted to approve it, correct?
But these voting to approve it based on these conditions. So I cannot do it without showing compliance.
And I'm pretty sure if they deny them, they can come back in 30 days and petition, just like the data center.
Correct.
So it'd be an ongoing thing where everybody would have to call and email nonstop until they give up, or we give up.
I still,
That's basically what my understanding is.
I still say from my original question, and it's for everyone that's here, how does this benefit any of us? I live by it. How does it benefit anyone that lives by it? You've told us random generic things, but nothing you've said benefits me from living by this battery plant. I mean, there's no benefit to it.
None whatsoever.
Yeah, if you don't,
We're not
if you
gonna
don't
have
end up,
cheaper utilities.
you don't pay sales tax if it goes to a data center. Will I ever see any of the $9 million of tax you say you're gonna pay, or 19, go to us? No, it won't. There's no benefit to any of us for this going in. No benefit whatsoever. The land looks good now. You can't make it look any better than it does.
But the land won't stay this way forever. The landowner has a right to choose what to do with their land.
I don't care.
Well, right now, they're in China, so it really doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, Singapore.
Singapore.
But that's what I wanted to hear, is how's it gonna benefit me? There's no benefit. They widen the road, it takes my property. I'm gonna see something I don't wanna see from my second
Doesn't
floor.
need, why the road doesn't need to take it.
It would if you're gonna make them that
We
big.
don't need to. The county, I think, has an interest to do that with you, to make your life improve. But if that's not in your interest, then there's nothing different done. Thank you. Okay. All right, well, thank you. I think this feels like we're wrapping up. I appreciate everyone. question? Independent?